Um, this is the first in my series. I'm kind of directionless with this. I have a piece of paper with all my ideas on it, but I all I know right now is that I'm gonna try to get people to understand cutting, and it's a difficult task because there's a lot of hate and misjudgment towards cutting and towards people who cut or anyone who does any form of self-harm. Um, but I think it's very important that we understand cutters, and that's what this first episode is going to be about, is understanding self-harm, understanding why it happens, and understanding, people's reasons behind it and what it does for people, really, and how it helps. And, if you can understand that, then perhaps, there won't be so much misjudgment towards it. And because a lot of people make fun of cutters. I don't know why that's funny. Like, I don't know why someone who wants to die is funny. I really don't see the humor in someone suffering. It just doesn't make sense to me. But a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people are like, oh, that emo fag, yeah, go cut yourself, go kill yourself, no one wants you around. Like, does that make someone feel bigger by kicking someone who's already down? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think it is very important that we understand cutters, and if you understand, maybe you won't hold hate, or maybe you will not feel so much pity. Because I think it's either like you hate them or you feel so terribly bad for them. It's like, oh my god, they need help and they need a friend and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's nice when people are like that, definitely, compared to, people like, oh, you fucking faggot, right? But like, it still bothers me, at least. I don't know. Some cutters definitely do it for the attention, but for the most part, most people cut their wrists, thighs, hips, stomach, shoulders, feet, ankles. What was I missing? Hands, back, everywhere. People cut everywhere. But people cut. Shit, I lost my train of thought. You know what? I'm just gonna start going into what I was planning on saying, and that is that people start cutting because they have serious emotional problems, and I am excluding the attention seekers here because there are so few of them, Don't assume that because there's scars on someone's wrists they want attention. Assume that they have problems, because that is the more likely explanation. And people with depression cut, people with anxiety cut, people with terrible home lives cut, people who are going through a terrible time in school and can't deal with the pressure any other way cut. And the reason that I turned to cutting, at least, was because I had heard that it helps. And I heard, oh, people are saying that this is like the cure for everything, and it just makes things better and stuff. And so I just heard good things about it, and I am not at all sort of advertising for cutting here. As I said in the introduction, I don't want you to think that I'm saying, go ahead and cut, children, it'll be alright. That's not what this is for. This is to help people who do cut and to help people who don't cut understand cutting. But, when I came across it, I heard that it would help. And I was going through so much bullshit, and I was at the beginning of my depression, which I'm hoping I'm at the tail end of right now. I think I am. I'm getting better, which is good. Yay. But, I started cutting when I found out about it, when I started hearing about it and hearing that it helps and that it does good things for people. And I wanted to try it. I was so curious. And I think that actually is how a lot of people start cutting, is curiosity, because you hear about it. You see it everywhere. You see people with scars in school, you hear about emo cutters and the emo fags, right? Like, you hear about people talking about that shit, and you're like, well, what's it all about? And, you know, at least for me, and I understand a lot of other people have their different personal reasons for why they got into it, but it's always, in the end, because of some sort of traumatic pain that someone's going through, You don't cut if you don't have emotional problems, or at least you do, and then you don't stick with it. Like, oh, this is the ideal hardcore thing to do. You cut once, you're like, oh, that wasn't fun. Whether it's hardcore or not. Like, a lot of people do that because they believe it's part of the image of emo and stuff like that, and it's like, well, no, don't hurt yourself if you don't have a reason. I mean, don't hurt yourself anyways. It's not good to cut, obviously, and I don't, as I said, don't want to be promoting it here, but people cut because they're in pain. And now a lot of people ask me, well, why would you add more pain to that? Why would you add physical pain on top of emotional pain? It's because the physical pain of cutting or burning or strangulation, a lot of people strangle themselves as well. I've never heard, like, I barely heard of that until just a couple months ago. I was like, the fuck is wrong with those kids? Like, just because it's so weird. Like, who would strangle themselves when there's, like, lighters and knives everywhere? But, where was I? Right, people ask me, like, why would you add more pain on top of the emotional pain? That doesn't make sense to them, but it releases endorphins, and the cutting or the burning or the strangulation releases endorphins into your brain that basically give you a high. And it's nice. I will not deny it's nice. It's like sex. It's nice, and like it's just so liberating. It's a freeing sensation, and it just takes away all the concentration. It's just, you have to focus so much on every line and every drop of blood. It takes you to a different world. And so yes, it is used as a crutch, the same way a lot of times people who have problems use drugs as a crutch. And I'm not going to get into a rant about drugs on this. Like, I think I'll do another series about drugs some other time, but, you know, people do use cutting as a crutch. I'm not going to deny that. It's a safety mechanism. There's a fly. I don't have ADD at all. So, you know, yeah, people use cutting as a crutch. People use it as their safety mechanism, the one thing that makes them feel like at home and safe and free. And, you know, it helps because it's something you can control. Not just the endorphins, but the idea of, this is what I am choosing for myself. No one else has a say in this razor and my skin. There's nothing standing between the scars. Like, this is up to me. And that was my main thing for it. I know a lot of other people say it gets out of control, and that's something I'm definitely going to talk about in the next episode, is addiction to cutting. And that's something that's very dangerous and often leads to suicide, accidental suicide even. But if done properly, it feels like finally I'm in control of something, you know? And that's actually the same reason a lot of people have eating disorders, is because they're looking for something to control. They're looking for something to choose for themselves because they feel trapped. And you want to make a decision for yourself. You want to be like, this is my life. I'm taking charge of, you know, my diet, or I'm taking charge of this knife or this lighter, this burning object shoving into myself. See, that sounded really wrong. No, but like, one thing about burning is, when I was burning, it was with, I would catch pencils on fire and stab them onto my wrist. Like, not into my skin, but because it didn't look like anything. It didn't look like a cut. It didn't look like anything that was on purpose. It just looked like a burn. It just looked like, you know, I hit a stove or something. So I think that's the convenience of burning, is that it isn't just obvious. But it's still for the same reasons. It's still because you're in emotional pain. And I think if people who don't cut can understand that, it'll help you have a new outlook on cutters and realize that they're just looking for a bit of control. They're just looking for a piece of the world to call their own. And we're just looking for a bit of escape. We're just looking for a bit of freedom, a bit of a high that'll get us happy for a while, you know. And not to say that's a good mechanism, not to say it's a good way of coping, but it works. You know, it's not the best, but it works. And to all the cutters who are watching this, I just want you to know you're not alone. I know that sounds really lame, like if you're in the throes of depression right now, you don't want to hear that you're not alone. You just want to believe, I am the only fucking person on the face of the planet who feels this way. But you're not. Like, I've been cutting for a while, on and off, but for quite a long time. And I know so many people who do. So many people go through problems, and you just have to know that there's a community here, and there are people that are here for you. And if you need someone to talk to about cutting or self-harm or depression, message me. I'm serious. I can talk to you about stuff. And, you know, we can just help each other cope, because I need help too. I'm not saying, like, I'm the guru of cutting. I definitely need